Hello, my name is Kofi Asiri. Welcome to IT Project Management and to Project Scope Management. We saw from the project management framework 9 knowledge areas. And we said we're going to look at these knowledge areas one after the other. So far, we've examined one, which is the project integration management. And this is the second of the knowledge areas that we are looking at. So let's delve deep into project scope management, see all the processes involved in project scope management as we did for the project integration management. Okay, so we start project scope management. The learning objectives. By the time we finish, you should be able to understand the elements that make good project scope management important. So there are several elements we will look at that constitute scope management. So we will see these elements. And then at some point in time, an organization might have several projects that they want to do, but maybe because of financial reasons or maybe time constraints, you cannot execute all these projects. And so you might have to select one or two of them and then do. So how do you select a project? So we'll describe the strategic planning process, and then also we'll learn how to apply some selection methods to projects. And we'll look at things like NPV or the net present value analysis, weighted scoring model, and then what we call balanced scorecard. All these things are used to make a selection from a number of projects that maybe you can possibly want to do, but you cannot do all at the same time. And then we understand the importance of creating what we call project charter. We have defined project charter in our earlier lessons before, and we'll see how we create them in this particular lesson. And then we'll explain the scope planning process and the content of a scope statement. Before you can begin any project, you must have a very valid and solid scope statement. If you don't have it, you would end up having to rework on a project so many times because you are not clear what you are even going to do in the first place. And so we will see how we can write a solid scope statement. Then we would discuss what we call the scope definition process, and then learn how to construct a WBS, that's a work breakdown structure. And there are several approaches that we use. We use the analogy type, we use the top-down, bottom-up, or what we call the mind mapping approach. And we'll see how these things are used to construct a work breakdown structure. Earlier on, we have defined work breakdown structure. We have a very huge project of maybe constructing a website for maybe something, or for some organization. You have to break that website development into smaller, manageable components that you can handle. Okay, database creation, user interface, maybe graphics design. So you have to break the whole website down into these smaller components. So we'll learn how to do WBS, or the work breakdown structure. Then we would understand the importance of scope verification and what we call scope change control. These are very important. Now, somebody has given you a work to do or a project, and so you have taken the scope from the stakeholders. You will need to verify the scope. So this is, you said you want A, B, C, D. You have to do that verification. So there's a formal way you do scope verification where you want to echo what you have been told to do to see whether both parties are in sync. Both the stakeholder and also the team, the project team, are in sync. You understand what clearly are supposed to be the output from the project and what's supposed to be in, what's supposed to be out of that project. And along the line in the project execution, changes will occur. These changes can come from government directives, can come from the stakeholders themselves, can come from any angle. Can be an environmental change, so many sources that can happen. And so you need to set up a proper scope change control, so that when the changes come, they are rolled into the project smoothly without causing any adverse effect. And so we'll see what we call scope change control. We will describe how software can also assist in project scope management. We saw a similar group of softwares when we were doing the project integration management, which is the first knowledge area that we looked at. Now, again, we'll see a list of software that can play some important role in the scope management also. So let's go deep into these ones and then find out how they help us. Okay, so we'll start by defining what scope management is all about, or we want to find out what is scope in the first place. So scope simply refers to all the work involved in creating the product of the project and the processes used to create them. It defines what is or is not to be done. This is very crucial. In other words, you are just drawing a boundary of the work that you're going to do. When you say a scope, you are drawing a boundary of what will be done and what will not be done. So this is a school management system. It includes school fees collection, student records management, examination records management. It does not include payroll. That is your scope you have defined. You have told us what to be done and what is not part of the scope. And this is very, very important. We have explained along the line why it is important. Then we need to also know what will be coming out of the project. So we call these things deliverables. These are products produced as part of the project. And it could be hardware, software, it could be documents, or even minutes of meetings. All these are part of things that are delivered as part of the project. So as the project is going on, these things are coming out of the project. So we call them collectively, we call it deliverables. Now, it is important that both parties, so as I said earlier, both the project team and the stakeholders, they must have the same understanding of what product will be produced as a result of the project and how they will be produced. This is very important. And that is why scope verification is crucial. Because if you have verified the scope with the stakeholders, they know what to be expecting and at what time. So the timing is important, what to be expect, what they would have to get out, or the products or the deliverable that they're going to expect, also important. And all these things will be defined in your scope statement that you write. And so that is why we are saying that it is crucial, because you make them understand. The last time, I think I gave a scenario where somebody went to pick some requirement from an organization and said he wants to go into the wilderness or want to go into the bush somewhere and stay there because that place is quiet, so he can develop the system for the customer. And so at the end of the day, what he brought was just not what they are looking for, because he just picked the requirement, did not verify, did not do any consultation or any talks with anybody again, went to somewhere with his own understanding and then began the development. So that is not what we do. We must make sure that the project team and then the stakeholders have clear understanding what to be expecting or what they will have to be expecting from the system, or they have to expect from the system, and in what form they will expect it. So how they will be produced. Okay, so let's see the processes involved in project scope management. In a similar manner, when we did project integration management, we saw the processes involved there. I think we saw 3 processes in there. Here, there are 5 processes. One is initiation, then we plan, then we define the scope, we verify the scope, and then we control the change as and when they come. So these are the 5 processes that scope management goes through: project initiation, scope planning, scope definition, scope verification, and then scope change control. We will take these processes one after the other and then define them more. But for project initiation, this is where we mark the beginning of a project. Or if we are having a project that is so large and so we have it in phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, then leaving phase 1 and exiting or continuing to phase 2 is what we call it initiation. So we are initiating another phase of the project, or we are beginning a new project. And so that's what we call the initiation. So there are a lot of things that happens at initiation. At initiation, we might have to select. So as I said, there could be several competing projects that the organization will want to do, but maybe lack of funds, they cannot do all these projects at the same time. So we'll have to use a selection criteria and pick one that will be based on the criteria that will be more beneficial to us at that point in time. And so we want to go and do that. And then when we have chosen that project that we want to do, or when we have identified the next phase we are going to do as part of the project or the phases of the project, then we will need to plan that phase, or we need to plan that project. So we need to provide documents, or in other words, we need to develop some document that will provide the basis for project decisions. We need to tell how long we will do this, how long we will do that, what quality to expect. That is where all the 9 knowledge areas come in. We saw this earlier, that planning involves all of them in there, because you need to know how much time, you need to know how much quality, you need to know which human resource. So all the 9 knowledge areas will come in there. And so that's what we're saying, that we plan in there. Then after the planning has been done, we now define the work to be done. So we now subdivide the major project deliverables into smaller, more manageable components. So we now want to develop a website. Okay, build database, we use this, we use that. Okay, we'll develop the graphical user interface, we'll do the icons, graphics. So we have to break them down. We have to break website development down into small, manageable components. And then we can assign to people, okay, you do the graphics, you do the user interface, you do the database design, you do this one. So we assign them to people, and then we can get it going. And then we would have to verify the scope. This is where we formalize, or we do a formal acceptance of the project scope. So based on what you have told us, based on the requirement we have gathered, this is the scope of the work. It must produce A, B, C, D. Is it acceptable to the stakeholders? Is it okay for the project team? So we both have to be, as we said, we must all have understanding of what we are supposed to produce, of what we are supposed to do for that project. That is very, very, very important. So we have to do what we call scope verification. And as the project commences, or as the project is underway, changes do occur. Changes to the scope can occur. Oh, let us add this to it. And all these things must be controlled. That's why we will need to set up the scope change control. So there's a mechanism that we put in place to track changes and make sure that we communicate these changes to the various units involved, or the various knowledge areas must be adjusted if the scope change is such that we require extra time. Then our time management is triggered, and then we invoke all processes there to extend the time. If we need to increase the cost, we will need to go to the cost management and trigger that also in there, and then begin to have processes to increase the cost. And so that is why we are saying it must go through a formal process. All right, so let's take them one by one into more details, as I said. So we are beginning with the initiation. So project initiation. So strategic planning and project selection. So the first step in initiating project is to look at a big picture, or what we call a strategic plan of an organization. So how does this project fit into an organization's strategic plan? Every organization is out there to make profit, unless maybe you are an NGO or some other organization that do not require any profit. Then in that case, you can embark on a project that will just add value to people's life or something without expecting anything in return. But if it is for the purpose of a profit-making organization, then that project which you want to embark on must fit into your bigger strategy of amassing your profit, or in other words, enhancing or increasing your profit. And so that's why we are saying that The project must fit into the strategic plan of the organization, and most often it is to boost your profit margins. And so, strategic planning involves determining the long term business objectives. So, in the long term, this project will add X amount of money or revenue to our maybe our annual returns or budget or return on investment. Maybe it will increase by X amount or Y amount, and so on and so forth. We will see some calculations very soon, and these are very nice calculations that most organizations do before they embark on project A or project B. So we are saying that IT projects should support the strategic and the financial business objectives. As I said earlier, you are there to make money. So if you embark on an IT project, it must enhance your objectives, and that is to make extra money or to increase your revenue. So you should reduce your costs. Maybe, for example, one hospital bought into a solution. Now, before they bought into the solution, that software solution, they were having about 7 to 8 staff at the NHIS office preparing the claims. And even that, they still were making losses because some claims are not accounted for, some do get missing along the line. So the manager of the hospital, the hospital, plus the medical suite sat together and said, let's go in for a system that can reduce the losses we are making and boost our revenue. And they took that project forward. They look at the exam, they examine how that IT project is going to fit in there. Now, when the IT project was procured, the procurement of the system and everything, they look at how much it's going to cost, how much it's going to cost to manage it and all that. And they saw that they were going to make far, far more returns because it reduced the population the staff who are working on the claims to only 2 people. That has reduced the cost of maintaining the old system. And the system too was very efficient and could account for every single claim. And so they were not making losses, they were not making mistakes on the claims and all that. And so these are some of the reasons why an organization might want to go in for certain IT projects of a sort. Now let's see how some of these things are actually done. Some of the calculations or mathematical calculations that we do in this case. So let's see identifying potential projects. So many organizations follow a planning process for selecting IT projects. First, they develop an IT strategic plan based on the organization's overall strategic plan. So they have a strategic plan that, okay, we want to make this revenue, maybe they want to increase revenue by 20% and so on and so on. So they have a plan. Then they perform a business area analysis. So they do an analysis of what business they are doing and how they can maybe use some IT to support that business and to realize that strategy that they have planned in place. Then they define some potential projects. So they now say, okay, instead of using this manual process of preparing claims, let us introduce an IT system in there to enhance the efficiency of our claim preparation and so on and so forth. So they now define these IT projects that they can do to enhance what their overall strategy that they want to embark on is all about. Then they select the IT projects that they want to do. And that selection process is where we'll go very soon, see how they select them. And then when they have chosen that IT project they want to do, they now assign resource to it, and then the project is carried out. Okay. So these are methods for selecting projects. There are usually more projects than available time and resource to implement them. So as I said earlier, you might have a number of projects that you want to do, but because of time and also money or resources, you cannot implement all of them. So you need to select one of them. So it is important to follow a logical process for selecting IT projects to work on. Some of these methods are, we have what we call focusing on the broad needs. So it could be that, okay, this project will serve a number of our needs, so let us embark on it. Or it can be, you can categorize the projects. Maybe these ones are having a higher priority compared to this, so we can categorize them that way. Or you can perform some financial analysis also. So I quite remember one headmaster did some wonderful financial analysis. He said, okay, he's buying a toner, he's buying a A4 rims or papers to print reports for students. He has a printer already, so he buys all these things and prints. So for 2,000 students, he looks at the number of papers, number of cartridges he has to use. Okay, then he said, okay, let's have an IT project that will put the reports of the student online for them to go and print. And in doing so, the cost of printing and paper will be at the end or at the parent's domain. So in other words, is the parent going to bear that cost? So he has saved the cost of the paper, the cost of the toner that he's using. Then even postage, because after printing and that, you have to buy envelopes and then go and post them. So he calculated all these costs and said, okay, let me now, if I push the cost to parents to print online or to download it online soft copy, I would rather save all these monies at the end of the day. So whatever system I'm going to buy, if I buy the system at X amount, and for 2 years I save the money for postage, printing, and all these things, I would recoup whatever investment I make in that system in the shortest possible time. So that is what he did in there. So we'll see some actual calculations and see how we do this calculation. We can perform some financial analysis. We can use the weighted scoring model, or we can also use what we call a balanced scorecard. And so these are the methods that are used in selecting which project to do. And so we are going to go through them into more detail. So let's start with the first one. Let's look at focusing on broad needs. So focusing on broad organizational needs. It is often difficult to provide strong justification for many IT projects, but everyone agrees they have high value. This one is true, because you can't actually give us any very strong justification for some IT project, but we all agree that they have some high value compared to whatever processes that will be there before we think of introducing IT. So it is better, somebody will say it is better to measure gold roughly than to count pennies precisely. And this is true. So if you have gold and then you just use your hand to measure it, put it in your hand, shake it, and say, okay, this one is better that way than counting the small coins that you have there precisely, because they will not amount to that rough measure of the gold that you measure. Okay. So 3 important criteria if you want to use organizational, or you want to focus on organizational needs, then 3 important criteria that is used in there is that there must be a need for the project. That is it. And then there must be funds available. And there should be a strong will to make the project succeed. These are the 3 things that you need to have if you are focusing on the organizational needs. Assuming that you want to do this project and you want to do it because the organization needs it, then there must be a need. There must be actually a need for that project. Okay, we actually need to have this system implemented. And then there must be funds available, and there must be willingness on the part of the stakeholders there to make sure that it succeeds. And that's it. So once this happens, then we can embark on such a project without having to subject it to any selection criteria that we'll be looking at later on. Then the second option is to going for a category. So categorizing is that's what we have here. Categorizing the project. So some projects can be categorized. Now, the categorizations can be such that it addresses whether it is a problem we are solving, whether it's an opportunity, or whether it's a directive. So 1, if it's a problem, maybe we have a problem in sending this kind of data in this format. So we need to have a system. Yes. We need to have a system that actually addresses that problem. And so that is one area or one of the categorization, or in other words, one way we can categorize IT project. So whether it addresses a problem or is it an opportunity? So, for example, COVID-19 came in, and now everybody is running into every school, every university, every secondary school, every institution is looking for some e-learning of a sort. So, if this is an opportunity. So, if you are an organization and you are into learning management system and you have something different from what others are having and you want to come into the market, then there's an opportunity for you to do so. So if you have to even borrow money into developing such a system, it must be done because there's an opportunity to do so. Again, is it a directive? It can be a government directive. Government says that, okay, henceforth, every organization must pay a tax through this portal. And so to be able to do that, you need to have a system in place that can communicate with that portal in the format that it must be done. And so that's a directive. So in that case, whether you like it, whether there's funds for that money or not, you must do it. So that's another categorization of IT projects. So is it a directive? If it's a directive, then it is mandatory. You cannot object to it because if you do so, you'll be cut out. You cannot communicate with any government institution of a sort. So another categorization is how long it will take to do and when it is needed. So you can also categorize the project as, okay, we will need this project in the next 5 years when we are going to go digital or when we are going to go this way. So in that case, I can categorize this project as not so important right now. So if I don't have funds right now to do it, I can suspend it and hold on till 5 years later when it will actually be needed. So we can categorize project also into how long it will take to do them or when it is needed. The project is needed in the next year, the next month, or next 5 years. It can also be how long it will take to do. Maybe this project will take us 2 years to complete. So let's put all the 2 years projects somewhere. Let's put those that will take us 6 months somewhere so we can categorize projects on these lines also. Then another one is the overall priority of the project. So as I said earlier, you can prioritize your projects. Those which are high priority, medium, low. So you can categorize them that way. And then you might want to do projects which are in the high category or high priority zone. Do them before the medium, before the least or the low priority ones are followed. Okay. So now let's go to the financial analysis of project. So this is where we perform some financial calculations, analysis on the project. Look at whether the project is viable to do or not. So there are some financial considerations that are often an important consideration in selecting projects. 3 primary methods for determining the projected financial values of projects, and these are what we call the NPV or the net present value. We also have the return on investment or the ROI, and then the payback analysis. And so we'll start with the first one, which is the NPV, and then we see how these things go. Okay, so the net present value is the difference between the present value of cash inflow and the present value of cash outflow that occurs as a result of undertaking an investment project. It may be positive or negative or zero. And then based on these 3 possibilities, we have different actions to take when the net NPV is positive, when it is zero, and when it is also negative. So let's go into it and then see exactly. Okay, let's now delve deep into the NPV calculations. So it is simply a difference, as we have already established, a difference between the net present value of cash inflow and the net present value of cash outflow that occurs as a result of undertaking an investment project. And so, because it's a difference between 2 figures or 2 cash flows, then it can be zero, negative, or positive. So when it is positive, then it means therefore you are receiving more cash inflow than cash outflow. And so for that matter, such a project or proposal, investment proposal is usually considered to be acceptable. And when it is zero, that means what flows in equals what flows out. And for that matter, that project is also considered to be acceptable. Then, when it is negative, then it means the value of cash inflow is less than the value of cash outflow. And so the net NPV will be negative, and the investment proposal is usually rejected unless it is a directive from the government that that project must be done. In that case, you have no excuse, you will have to do it. But otherwise, no rational organization will carry out a project whose NPV is negative. Let's now see the formula for calculating the NPV. In NPV, we will need to know the period over which the investment is supposed to be done, maybe 2 years, 1 year, and so on and so forth. Then also, what rate of investment or rate of return do we expect from that investment that you want to make? Okay, so now we delve deep into the NPV calculation. So the formula is we have the rate of return. In other words, what the amount you will be, the cash inflow, yearly cash inflow, or periodic cash inflow. So, for example, in the question or in how to calculate the NPV, we need to be told how much are we expecting. For example, every period, over the period of time that the investment is going to last. So that amount, we multiply that by the rate. The rate is what percentage is the organization expecting from investment that they make. So maybe I expect to have 10% on every investment I make. So that becomes the rate. Then the T stands for the total period. How many years is that investment or that project going to last? So if the project is for a 5-year project, then within the 5 year, each year I need to be I'm going to be earning certain amount. Then we subtract our init. So this is where the difference comes in. So this part of it will give you the expected cash inflow. Then this is the investment that you are making, so your cash outflow. So when you do this subtraction and you get a negative value, then it means what you are spending will be more than what you'll be getting. For that matter, it will not go in. When it is positive, then it means you'll be earning more than what you are going to spend. So let's see an example here. So for example, a company called Smart Manufacturing is planning to reduce its labor cost by automating a critical task that is currently performed manually. The automation requires the installation of a new machine. The equipment will cost $35,000. So that is the initial investment they are going to make into that equipment that they want to purchase. And it will generate $27,000 per year. Now, the system is going to last. The lifespan of the equipment is 2 years. So that means after 2 years, it becomes obsolete. You can't make any use of it again. So you need to make all your money within the 2 years. Now, the company or the management of the company wants a 12% return on all investments. So whenever they make an investment, they expect 12% return on it. So that is the R. And then the time period is T. That is the 2 years. And this is the initial capital that they are spending. That is 35,000. And that is the initial investment. And this is what they are going to be generating every year. And so that is the C. So we now can see, we have now identified all the part of the formula from the story I've just seen. So let's see now how we can calculate the NPV from this example in the first place. So we will be switching to my screen very soon. My desk, what do you call it? I'll take it to my board very soon so that we can get the calculation done. So all this over R and then minus the initial investment. So I'll call it IV. Okay. Okay. So let us now see what we have on my screen. So I'm going to switch you to my screen so that we can see. Yes. So I'm sure you can see the formula I have on the screen. So from what we have just seen, our NPV is equal to the return on investment that we're going to be making over the periodically, it is yearly, the figure is in there. Then multiply that by, then into bracket, we first add 1 to the rate, and raise the power, the minus of the period. And then we subtract we subtract that figure from 1, and then we divide all by the rate. And then we subtract from this calculation. So this, as we said, this part of it gives you the return on investment or the cash inflow, and then we subtract the cash outflow from it, what you're investing initially from it. So this is basically what you have. So from the question that we have, we are saying that we are going to be getting, we are investing $35,000, and periodically we're going to be earning $27,000 periodically, and then it's going to be for a period of 2 years. So as you can see, our T is equal to 2. So this is my C, and this is my initial investment. That's what we have in there, and then the company is also looking for an R, a rate of. So let me put that on top here. So they are looking for a rate of, is it 10 or 12%? Let me check from. Yes, so they're looking for a rate of 12%. So they're looking for 12% on all return of all investment that they make. They're looking for 12%. So we can now begin to put this into the formula. So 12% is basically equal to 0.12. So we want to insert this into the formula. It becomes 27,000. I'm sure it will go up. I'm sure you cannot see from that. So our NPV becomes equal to $27,000 times, then into brackets. So we now start. We have first bracket 1 minus, then another bracket we have 1 plus 0.12. Then we raise all this to the power -2. Then, after we've calculated that one, we'll subtract it from 1, and then we'll divide everything by R. R is 0.12. So that will give us this aspect. Then we now multiply this by 27,000, and then we subtract from it, so minus our $35,000. And then the rest, the answer will get. So you can calculate this yourself to see. So you can do 1 plus 0.12 raised to the power -2. So let me do that from my calculator here, and then put it there so that we can have our answer. So let me raise it up here. I think I'll put my answer at the top here so we can see that one. So it will now become NPV will become 27,000 into bracket times into bracket. I'm going to get 1 point. So it becomes 1 minus. So this is the first bracket. It becomes 1.12 raised to the power -2. Then all that divided by 0.12. And then minus 35,000. I'm sure you can see from there. Okay, so that becomes what we will get in there. So let's now raise this to the power -2. And see quickly. So we're going to put my scientific calculator on. I'll get becomes 1.12 raised to the power raised to the power raised to the power negative raised to the power -2. So that becomes, so coming down, equal to 27,000 times into bracket 1 minus. So what I got there is 0.797. Try and see if you get the same figure. Okay, then that closes the bracket. So this bracket is closed here. And then I divide all that by 0.12. Then I subtract 35,000 from it. Okay, so now let's proceed further. So now let me do 1 minus that. So I'm going to do 1 minus what I have here. So it becomes 1 minus 0.797. So that gives me 0.203. So it becomes 27,000 times 0.203 divided by 0.12 minus 35,000, my initial investment. Okay, so then I now divide that by 0.12, the rate, that is the R in the formula. So that gives me 1 point. So now I get 27,000 times 1.692. Let me leave it at that. And then minus 35,000. So I now multiply that by 27,000. So times $27,000. So $27,000 times 1.692. So that gives me 45,684. Then I now subtract my initial investment, which is $35,000 from it. So then this minus $35,000, and that gives me $10,000, $10,684. So this is the NPV. So my NPV is equal to this figure. And per what we have done, my NPV is positive. So therefore, this project is supposed to be accepted. Let's go back to the slides and see what we have there. So from the slides, yes. So from the slides, we were supposed to compute the NPV value for this investment. And then we were supposed to give a judgment as to whether the equipment should be purchased according to the NPV analysis or not. So now let's see the result we get. So yes, there's some difference in there. The difference is because of the fact that I didn't round up some decimals in there. And so by the end of the day, if it's 10,000, I got 10,684. And the solution from here is 10,631. And so there's a slight difference in there. I use the full, decimals in calculating, but here I was rounding up. Okay, so this is the formula we have used. The initial investment is $35,000. We want to get the cash inflow and then the cash outflow, the difference between the two of them. And so we have gone through the NPV formula, and we know the formula is calculated as this that we have here. So now we put in all the parameters that we want to put in there, and then we calculate. And based on the positive nature of the NPV value, then the judgment that the equipment should be purchased because the net present value is positive. And indeed, the company is looking for 12% return on investment. That means when they invested $35,000, 12% of it is what they are looking for every year. And so, for that matter, the figure we are having here is more than the 12%. And so, the project is supposed to be embarked on so long as the NPV value is positive. That is how to use NPV in the calculations. I am sure you can do this next one. So, this will be an exercise for you. Do this and then check whether the project should be carried out or not. So we say that the management of Fine Electronics Company is considering to purchase an equipment to be attached with the main manufacturing machine. The equipment will cost $6,000 and will increase annual cash inflow by $2,200. The useful life of the equipment is 6 years. After 6 years, it will have no salvage value. So it will just go out of the system. The management wants 20%. So here your R is 20, that is 0.2. And then your T, the period, is 6. And the annual cash inflow, periodically, every year, what they are going to get is the 2,200. And they are going to invest $6,000. So you are going to calculate the NPV based on the formula we have just seen and the example we have seen. Then your verdict will be whether they should go ahead or not. So depending on the NPV value, whether it is positive or negative, you would have that in there. Okay. The next financial calculation that is done is what we call the return on investment or the ROI. So return on investment is calculated by subtracting the project cost from the benefit and then dividing by the cost. So this is the formula. The total discounted benefit minus total discounted cost. Then we divide by the discounted cost. And that is what gives the return on investment. So the higher the return on investment, the better. So many organizations have a required rate of return on investment. So some companies have got a rate that, okay, once if we don't have a return on investment of, let's say, 10%, we will not embark on it. So it's an organization decision. We can choose that, okay, for us, we will peg our ROI at 12%. If we don't get that one, we will not embark on any project that gives us lesser than 12%. And so that is that. Okay. Then we have the payback analysis. Another important financial consideration is payback analysis. The payback period is the amount of time it will take to recoup in the form of net cash inflows the net dollar investment or invested in the project. So usually some organizations will want to invest in the business and don't know the payback. Okay, it will take you 2 years to get back all money that you invest. Okay, if that is okay for them, then that's okay. So usually the payback analysis is used to find out how long it will take me to get back my money that I put into a business. So usually IT projects with short payback analysis are usually invested in. So people want to go into a period where, okay, after 6 months, I get all my cash back, and that's it. Or I don't want to invest in a business where it will take me 5 years to get back. And so that's what we call a payback. So many organizations want IT projects to have fairly short payback periods. That is in there. All right. Then we'll look at let me take a small break and then we'll come back to the weighted scoring model. That also will have some examples and then we'll see how we can do some calculation. So you're welcome back from the commercial break. We now go into the weighted scoring model to see how it is used to select also a potential project. If you have several projects and you want to pick one, this is an approach that is used. So a weighted scoring model is a tool that provides a systematic process of selecting projects based on many criteria. So, for example, you would have a number of potential projects. Let's say project one, two, three, four, number of projects. And you want to select one from these four projects, but you have a set of criteria that you want to use to do the selection. Let me give you a funny example. Maybe you want to marry out of a number of girlfriends. Maybe you have, let's say, three girlfriends, Akosia, Ajua, and Abena. You want to pick one of them. Now, the first thing you need to do in the selection is to identify criteria that is important to the project selection. So to your marriage process, you want to have certain criteria for picking one of the girlfriends. So maybe you can identify them. You know your criteria. So maybe you might want to say weight. So the weight of the lady is a criteria for you. That is one. Okay, two. You want to have maybe the cooking skills or taste of the food. So you want to put cooking there. Then maybe respect is also in there. So let's say you have identified these three criteria as a criteria you want to use. So that is the first part here. Identify the criteria that is important to the project selection. Then two, you have to assign weight to this criteria. How heavy are these criteria to you? So over to you. So here, from the three that we have selected, the weight of the lady. You don't want maybe, for example, maybe if you prefer the other type. So then you say, okay, the weight is important to me. So for weight, I'll give the weight, let's say 50% of the criteria. When you finish, when you sum up the percentages for all the criteria, you sum up to 100. So they must compulsorily add up to 100. So let's say the weight, I'll assign 50%. So you must have 50% pass mark for the weight. Then maybe cook or cooking, you will assign cooking, let's say 30%. Then maybe you don't care much about whether they respect you and your family or not. So maybe for respect, you will assign 20%. So at the end of the day, these three criteria, their weight must add up to 100. Then now you will now go, so that's the second step to take in using the weighted scoring model. Then the third step is to now go and assign their actual scores. So you now take Adwa first. Okay, in terms of weight, Adwa is Chengelenge, so Adwa has scored 20%. Maybe Abena is heavy, so Abena scored 80%. And then maybe the last person has scored is Oyehoneho. So she has scored 70%. That is how to assign the weight. In other words, the scores to them. Then you go to the next one, cooking. The last time Adua cooked for me, I had to take some, what do you call it? Martin liver salt or something. So I just cooking there. Let me give her 10. So over here, you are assigning the actual scores. Then after assigning the scores, you now come and then calculate the weight, the actual weight that you get, and then we sum them up. So let's see an example and see how we can do this. So I'll be switching to my screen very soon for you to see the calculation, how we do this calculation. But this, having applied all the four steps, one is that we are making a selection of four projects, project 1, 2, 3, and 4. We want to pick one of these projects. And then finally, before we come here, finally, when you have calculated the actual weight, we sum them up. And then the one that has got the highest weighted score is the better project that you have to take. So in this case, if you calculate the weight you sum up the weights that you calculate for the various girlfriends. The one that scores higher is the one that you would marry. That's all. Okay, so now in terms of this example, these are the weights, the criteria that we want to look at. We want to look at whether there's support for key business objectives. If you want to embark on this project, is there support for business objectives? Has this project got strong internal sponsor? Has it got strong customer support? Has it got realistic level of technology? Can it be implemented in 1 year or less? And then does it provide positive MPV values? We just saw how to calculate MPVs and so on and so forth. Has it got low risk in meeting the scope, time, and cost goals? So these are the criteria that we want to look at. Then these are the weights we've assigned to the criteria. So in terms of support for business objectives, we assign 25% because it's important to us. In terms of strong internal sponsor, we assign 15%, and it goes on. And at the end of the day, as I said, when you sum up the weights for all the criteria, it must add up to 100%. And that's what you have here. Then we now go in for the projects. So project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4. And these are the scores they have earned. So for project 1, the support for key business objectives is about 90%. And these figures are not usually assigned arbitrarily, but based on actual calculations or actual estimations that you have done on this project. If you look at the project, has this project, so based on the criteria. So here, for example, the earlier example that we used, you have tasted all these girlfriends before. So you know how they cook, you know their weight, you know their respect levels and all that. So you would have to assign them percentages based on experience or what you have done in there and so on and so forth. Okay, so now we've assigned these figures. Then how come they got this weighted score? Let's now see how we calculate this weighted score. So let's now switch to my screen so that we can demonstrate how the calculation is done. So I'm going to copy this onto my screen quickly, and then we switch to the screen. Okay. So welcome to my whiteboard. So now I've copied them quickly. I didn't copy the actual criteria because we know them. So this one, support for key business objectives, strong internal sponsor, and all those are here. Now these are the weights we assign. 25 for support for key business objectives, 15%, and so on. So total, they add up to 100. And for project 1, it's called 90 years, 70, 50, and so on and so forth. These are the actual score they have gotten. But we need to convert these scores into the weighted into the weights so that we know the actual weighted. That's why it's called weighted scoring model. So if you are getting 90% out of 25, then what is the actual weight you got? So to calculate this, it is simply going to be 25. I think you cannot see from here. Let me tilt my screen a little bit down here. Okay, so we are going to calculate this, the actual weight as 25 over 100 times 90%. And so what do we get? Let me go for my calculator and then punch onto it. 25 divided by 100 times 90. That gives me 22. So in terms of the actual weight, 90% here is equivalent to 22.5. This is very simple. If you know how to calculate it, you can just even calculate without using the calculator. Because if the person has scored 100% here, that means you have gotten all the 25% weight that we are looking for. Okay, so now 70% or 15. So it becomes 0.15 times 70. So 51 is also 10.5. Then we continue. This we're looking for 15%. You scored 50% of it. So naturally, you can just calculate it's just half of this, so it becomes 7.5. You're looking for 10%, you scored 25%. So it becomes 0.1 times 25. And that is 2.5. Then you're looking for 5%. You score 20% of 5%. So in that case, it becomes 0.05 times 20, and that gives you 1. Then you're looking for 20%, you score 50. So that is just equal to 10%, half of it. Then I'm sure you can see, okay. So you're looking for 10%, you score 20% of it. So it becomes 0.1 times 20, and that gives you 2. So we now sum, these are the actual weights. We now sum them up. So it becomes 22.5 plus 10.5 plus 7.5 plus 2.5 plus 1 plus 10 plus 2, giving us 56. So the total weighted score for project 1 is 56. Let's do a similar thing for project 2. So we did a calculation for project 1, project 2, project 3. If there are 5 projects, we go through the calculation. So for project 2, 90% will also be 22.5. Then 90% of that will also be, so it will be 0.15 times 90%. That is 13.5. Then 90% of that also is the same 13.5. Then 90% of 10 becomes equal to, so it becomes 9, because 90% of 10 is 9. Then 5, also we saw this calculation, 20 is equal to 1. And here 70% of 20, so it becomes 0.2 times 70%. That becomes equal to 14. Then this is 50% of that, that is 5. Let's sum them up together and see what we get. So if we do this, the rest you can do it yourself. You see how simple it is. So now it becomes 22.5 plus 22.5 plus 13.5 plus another 13.5 plus 9 plus 1 plus 14 plus 5. So that becomes 78.5. And the calculation goes on. As for this one, is very straightforward. It is half of each, because this 50% of 25, 50% of 15. So we just do that. And so you can do that at home. Okay, so now let's go back to the chart and see what we have. So from the chart, as you can see here, we got 56 for project 1, 78.5 for project 2. And that is exactly what this slide is showing us. And so when you follow the calculation throughout, you can see that this one is 50% of all. So total 50% of 100%. That means that's what we have here. And it goes on. So this means that if we are selecting a project to do, it should be project 2. Because it is the one that has got the highest weighted score. And that is how to use the weighted scoring model to select a project. And so do this at home and then make sure you do it honestly and genuinely to get the answer. So create a weighted scoring model to determine which project to select. Assume the criteria are 1, the cost, the strategic value, risk, and the financials. So 4 of them: cost, strategic value, risk, and financials. After you select either project 1, 2, or 3, so we're going to select project 1, 2, or 3 projects. Explain why you did not select the other 2 projects. So when you pick one, you have to tell me why you didn't pick the other one. And the reason will be very simple: because they had lower weighted scoring, weighted score. That's all. Okay, then now these are the weights we want to assign. So for the first one, cost is 15%. The strategic value is 40%. Risk is 20%. And then the financials is 25% respectively. And then the project one values are 60, 65, 75, 50. Project two is 90, 50, 60, 70. And project three is 90, 80, 70, 60. Use your template to create your weighted scoring model. So just as I did here, you have to project them the same way and then produce your verdict, which one you choose. Okay, so next we go to project charter. So as we said, by the time we finish this, we should be able to write, or we should know about what the project charter is. So after deciding what project to work on, so now all that we have gone through was to select a project to work on. And so now that we have chosen a project, we have seen several selection criteria, either using the financial calculations, the NPV, the return on investment, or the payback analysis, or we have used some weighted scoring models and other things in there. The next thing is that we have chosen a project we want to do. So now that we have a project we want to do, then we need to formalize the project. So it is important to formalize it by creating a document that will cover the project. So a project charter is simply a document that formally recognizes the existence of a project and provides direction on the project's objectives and also management. Who is in charge of the project? What is the project going to do at the end of the day? So key project stakeholders should sign the project charter to acknowledge the agreement on the need and the intent of the project. So it needs to be signed by key stakeholders. You need to have those who are sponsoring it. They need to sign that we have put our signature to this project. It's going to commence this date and it's going to produce this at the end of the day. So this is a very simple example of a project charter. As you can see, there's a title of the project, the date the project is supposed to commence, the date is expected to end, the project manager, the project objectives are there, the approaches, the roles and responsibilities of the various stakeholders are in there. And this is a typical project charter. Okay, then we should need to have the signatures at the end. So we need to be signed off by the key, as we said, the key sponsors and stakeholders must sign the project in there. And if there are any comments, it must be placed at the end of this document. Okay, so we'll continue with the scope planning and the scope statement. So a scope statement is a document used to develop and confirm a common understanding of the project scope. It should include, so once you have done, gone through the project selection and everything, you need to come up with a scope document also, or a scope statement, defining what we're going to do, what must be included, as we said earlier, what must not be included. And so that's what we call the scope statement. So a scope statement is a document used to develop and confirm a common understanding of the project scope. So this common understanding is, in effect, what the project team understands and what the stakeholders also understand. That this is what these people must produce at the end of the day. This is what is supposed to be included or excluded from the project. So that's why we say it must form a common understanding on all parties involved. It should include a project justification. Why do we have to do this project and all that? And this justification will come from the financial that you have done. In other words, the the reason why you chose this. So if you did NPV, you need to justify what should be the benefit after 2 years, after a year. Why should you have to invest in that one? how much it is going to return to us, and all those. So all those things will form the project justification. A brief description of the project product. What do we expect this project to produce at the end of the day? A summary of all deliverables. So after this period, we should expect this. After that, we should expect that. After this, we should expect this. So we need to give us a summary of all deliverables also. And a statement of what determines a success or a failure. So we need to know that, when we see this, or after the completion of the project, we should see this. So once we don't see it, then we know it has failed. If we see it, then we have passed. And that is what constitutes a scope statement. So we see an example very soon. Let me see whether the example is here. Okay.